What is up, all my fellow Turbos? This is Steve Turbo of the Hyper Arcade Turbo Bros coming to you today with a movie review. Oh man, a movie review? Oh, Steve Turbo's never done that before. What is he doing? I mean, that's okay. So, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention or not, but it's May 1st, and a certain movie came out today, one that has been highly anticipated by just about every person on the planet, and that movie was The Avengers: Age of Ultron. Easily the biggest, most anticipated blockbuster of the summer so far, and also the first. So, how did we kick off the summer movie season? You know, how did Avengers turn out? Was the Age of Ultron a dull one, or an exciting one? Well, good thing you came to me, because I'm going to let you know all the facts. What was good, what was bad, and what I want to see more of, I guess you could say. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it, shall we? So the Avengers: Age of Ultron, this is pretty much the precursor to Phase 3 of the Avengers, which is going to lead into Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It's going to kind of pave the way, or set everything into motion for the next wave. Captain America: Civil War, Thor: Ragnarok, the Inhumans. Pardon me. Sorry, I am still very tired. It's been a very long day. We had to travel a ways to get to the theater that's actually good in our area. So, so Avengers: Age of Ultron, what's it about? So basically, Tony Stark goes to create the perfect artificial intelligence weapon to protect the Earth in the event that the Avengers cannot, or just a permanent way to where the Avengers are no longer needed. As you can guess, things kind of didn't go as planned for Tony Stark. So, you know, he made this with all the best intentions, but you know what they say about, you know, good intentions is that the road to hell is paved with them. So Ultron becomes sentient. He becomes conscious. And, well, he decides that it's not so much that he needs to protect the humans of the world, it's that he needs to protect the world from humans. And his idea of, you know, perfect planet is basically by causing a mass extinction of all the humans on Earth, and thus paving the way for his age. In other words, the age of the machine, the age of Ultron. And what this ends up doing is it ends up causing a lot of turmoil and a lot of problems within the Avengers. Conflicts of ideals, fears, you know, who's dangerous, who's not, you know, who can be trusted, who can't, you know, is Tony Stark a reliable leader, you know, all these things come into play. So, right away, I just want to say that there are going to be spoilers for this movie. So if you do not want spoilers, I'm going to leave you a quick... This is going to be the too long, don't read version and the spoiler-free version, so get ready. So, too long, don't read. If you like the first Avengers, you will like this one. In my opinion, it's got a lot more action than the first one did, which plays to its credit and also sort of to its demise, because I feel like in many ways that, you know, it was so overstuffed with action that it didn't leave a whole lot of room for story. And in this case, it really could have benefited from that. Now, that's not to say that the movie is not without story. It is. It has a great amount of story. It's, you know, it's. I think the problem is that, and I picked this up throughout the movie, I think that this version of the film is the film that Marvel wanted. Running at 2.5 hours, it's a long movie. So there were some kind of awkward cuts that needed to be made. There were some moments in the film that seemed either rushed or, like, kind of cut up. So, again, if you like the first Avengers, you will like this one. Now, a lot of people have said that it doesn't quite hold up as well. I think it does. I think it holds up pretty well. I mean, let's face it, the first time we all saw the Avengers was just that. That was the first time we had seen them on a major motion screen. So, obviously, it's going to be hard to top that in terms of the wow factor that you had the first time you saw them all on screen together. But in my opinion, this movie does an actual amazing job, great movie, great date night movie, great friends movie. It's not something that you're going to have to trog through. It's definitely exciting. It keeps your attention. There's not really any boring moments in the film. The characters are funny. There's great interactions between them still, and a lot of things and a lot of questions come into play as far as setting up Phase 3. So, in my opinion, too long don't read version of Age of Ultron in the spoiler-free version, I would give this film about an 8 out of 10. It's good, but I want to see the director's cut of this movie, because I feel like there were some really important things that were left out for the sake of pacing, and for the people sitting in the audience who probably have little kids that can't sit still for 3.5 hours. So, I'm going to give it an 8 on that premise. So, 8 out of 10. That's a too long don't read, spoiler-free version of this review. Done. Boom. There you go. If you don't want spoilers, leave now. Leave now. Leave now. Spoilers. 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 Okay, so the spoiler version of this. Okay, so... Wow. Where do I begin? So, the good with this movie. You had the same exact witty, funny interactions that you had before with the previous cast. I mean, it all starts with them, you know, invading the Hydra base, you know, retrieving Loki's staff, retrieving the twins, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Well, not so much retrieving them, but interacting with them. So this is them meeting them for the first time. Scarlet Witch, you know, she places the mind wash over Tony Stark, thus initiating his need to, you know, create Ultron. Within the Hydra base, he discovers basically what they were planning for artificial intelligence, and he decides to put that into motion into Jarvis. Or, not into Jarvis, but into the Ultron project. Now, originally, for fans of the comics, Hank Pym was originally the one that designed Ultron, not Tony Stark. But that's okay, because, you know, again, Hank Pym has not been introduced yet. He won't be introduced until Ant-Man. So, a couple things that played well, again, was the interactions with the characters. They all had that witty banter. It was just as funny as it was before. The little moment where they're all trying to lift Thor's hammer is hilarious, and it becomes even more hilarious later on in the movie, when Vision comes. So, you know, those little interactions, the cast still gels incredibly well. They just have such a great on-screen chemistry with them. I will say this, that I was concerned at first as to how Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were going to fit into the group, as well as Vision. They actually fit in incredibly well. I will say that, you know, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, I really grew to like them in this movie, which made it all the more tragic that, at the very end, Quicksilver died. Don't get mad at me, I said spoilers! Quicksilver dies at the end of the movie, sadly, so unfortunately it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing him in a future installment. Scarlet Witch does survive the encounter with Ultron, and she has a great shining moment against Ultron, and when she pulls out his heart and crushes it. So that was a great play for, you know, what could arguably be, you know, female heroes not getting a whole lot of recognition. Scarlet Witch killed Ultron, in a sense. Vision took out the last bot, but, you know, Scarlet Witch dealt the killing blow, and it fit. It fit. That her twin brother, who she loved more than anybody in the world, perished at Ultron's hands. So it made sense that she took him out. So, another good thing was that Ultron was surprisingly funny. I did not expect him to be as funny as he was. James Spader did a bang-up job, I will say. When Ultron first appeared, it was very, very scary. Very, very scary. He was this shambling, busted-up Iron Legion bot, and he just, the way he moved and gangled about, it was very, very scary. And, you know, it was one of those things that we were all sitting in the theater like, oh, God, that's really creepy. That is really, really creepy. But James Spader did an excellent job. You know, he blended a perfect amount of, like, Saturday morning cartoon villainy. Like, this definitely was a scary version of Ultron, but he was also a very silly version, which, again, is not a bad thing. I really got a lot of enjoyment out of watching him on the screen. But again, bang-up job. I really like that they gave, you know, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch the accents that they did. It fit really well with their character and their background. They never mentioned Magneto, for those of you who were thinking that somehow he would be brought up, or any of the other X-Men would be brought up. Magneto was never brought up. As of right now, there were no allusions to him, there were no hints at him, there were no anything like that. So, as far as everything's concerned, outside of those in the know, Magneto and the other X-Men do not exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as of right now. That could change, we don't know. So, let's get on to the next. Other good things. Now, in my opinion, this is the movie's greatest strength and also its greatest weakness. So, there's tons of action in this movie. There is tons of action to keep you interested. If you're a person that just likes to go and see fights, this movie has a ton of it. A ton of fights that you can sink your teeth into. My personal favorite was the Hulkbuster versus Hulk battle. And we got to see why, why that was so impactful and why the Hulkbuster was necessary. We got to see, that there is a method to stop the Hulk if need be. So this segment was really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. It was really funny when, Tony's just beating Hulk's head in. It's like, stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down. Really hilarious. Loved it. But this was another... I'll get into that into the bad. But yeah, there's tons of action. If that is your thing, there is tons of it. I promise you that. So, again, now... a couple cool things is we did get to see a few characters actually fleshed out. We got to learn a little bit more about Hawkeye. This was actually cool seeing that he has a family and a nice little home, a wife and kids. It was kind of nice to see Hawkeye get his due. For as much, disrespect as a lot of people think that Black Widow gets, I feel like Hawkeye gets even more. People honestly think that he's useless, and I don't think that's quite the case. He's always proven to be a really reliable team member. But people give him crap all the time, so what are you going to do? In this team of gods, it's so, tough for heroes like Black Widow and Hawkeye who are just normal people. They're just normal people utilizing the skills that they have in the best way they can. But it was really cool. This was a beautiful little sequence that kind of just showed the Avengers at a time of peace in the midst of all this chaos and turmoil. Another good thing they did, the costumes. Oh man, the Hulkbuster armor was perfect, and I will say this, that as far as on-screen incarnations go, Vision had easily the best representation in this movie. His costume was absolutely perfect. He's played by the brilliant Paul Bettany, who was the voice of Jarvis, so I knew somehow that was going to be integrated in. I knew somehow that the Vision and Jarvis were going to become one, along with all the collective powers of Ultron and all that. So basically, this is what happens when you take all the might of Ultron and Jarvis's good, I guess you could call it pre-programmed goodness, and you combine them into one being. That also led into an incredibly hilarious segment where Vision actually lifted Thor's hammer without even knowing. Now, I'm sure a lot of people question this segment. They're like, how in the world could Vision wield Mjolnir, but Captain America couldn't? Well, one way I interpret it was that Vision, when he lifted Mjolnir, he was just born, basically. He was still pure. He had not done anything. His soul was clean. So, with that said, the hammer probably, in some strange way, unknowingly deemed him worthy because he has done nothing to not prove himself worthy. It's arguable what Cap has done throughout his life, and, Cap being, the force of great and goodness, there could have been something that he did that, just deemed him unworthy or not worthy enough. But Vision, having basically a clean slate, he was capable of wielding Mjolnir. So this played really cool into the rest of the movie. Now, granted, he didn't get the full powers of Thor, or at least he didn't display the full powers of Thor, but he was at least able to help Thor out during the fight with Ultron. So that's my take on it. Vision was just newly born, and therefore he was able to wield the hammer because he had done nothing to deem him unworthy. It's basically, the rules are pretty cut and dry with Mjolnir. It's either you're worthy or you're not. There's no real in-between, I guess. I don't know how ancient Norse hammers work. But that's the only thing that I can guess. Is that Vision was basically still pure in the eyes of Mjolnir. So, what else did we have that was good? Honestly, I really like the relationship between Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. You could really tell in the movie that the two cared for each other. Now, let's hope that they don't care for each other in the way that they did in some old books past. Ooh, we don't need to talk about that. But anyway, you really got the genuine feeling that they were a brother and sister that had been through the worst. So this actually made their relationship pretty great. It let you know that things were, they had been through some really rough times. And it showed that they really, truly, genuinely cared for each other. And that made it all the more heartbreaking when Quicksilver died. that's ultimately what made it so bad and so heart-wrenching, was that, you know, they were twins, and they had been through the worst, and to have her brother taken from her left this warp, or this hole in Wanda's heart, and therefore, which made the death of Ultron that much more satisfying. That really made a huge impact, and I was hoping that she was going to rip his heart out. So that was some great chemistry between Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Olivia Olsen, I believe her name is. Olivia Olsen, I'm pretty sure. But great on-screen chemistry between those two. Absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed the segments they were in, and I really like Quicksilver as a character, which made his death all the more difficult to deal with. So, yeah, that was harsh. That was very harsh. Another thing that was good was the introduction and the actual official, or, well, at least not in the cosmic universe, in the Avengers down on Earth, the actual, I guess you could say, the confirmation of the Infinity Gems. We found out that the gem that was within Loki's scepter was the Mind Gem. This was how they were able to bring Vision to life. So that was actually very, very cool. It actually officially just acknowledged the gems. Thor actually talked about them, thus setting the events in place for us to learn more about Thanos and what he's going to do with these gems and why these gems are so sought after all over the planet. So you find out that anyone in possession of all the gems is the most powerful being in the entire universe. So yeah, we got confirmation of that and the gems that we've seen so far. So we have seen the Mind Gem. I believe the Aether was the Power Gem, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if I'm wrong about that. And the gem within the orb in Guardians of the Galaxy was the Reality Gem. The Tesseract, I'm not sure which gem that is just yet, but I know that we have 2 more gems that we need to see before all is said and done. So, with that said, we have 2 more gems that we need to get through, you know, in that time. So, seeing that this is going to be a major threat by the end of all of this was great to see confirmed. The introduction of Ulysses Klaue. So, I picked this up right away, that Ulysses Klaue, the man they visited on the boats down in Wakanda, and the acknowledgement of Wakanda at that, was basically setting the way for Black Panther. Black Panther is a pivotal Avenger, which I wish they had introduced him sooner, but that's okay. That's just fine. You know, we actually got confirmation of Wakanda and what exactly they are best known for. They are the most advanced civilization on the planet. They are where Wakanda is, where vibranium, the metal that makes up Cap's shield, is from. It's the most hardened substance on the planet. So we know about the nation of Wakanda now, and Ulysses Klaue is, of course, a Black Panther villain. So we got to see him, and thus confirming, you know, the existence and the segue into Black Panther when that movie comes out, you know, in a few years. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. I got that right away. I'm sure there were a lot of people in the audience that didn't know how that was going to come into play, but they'll see it when the Black Panther movie comes out. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I missed. I mean, this was a good movie overall. This was a good movie overall, but it was not without its problems. So, the bad. So, oh boy. The problem with Marvel movies getting bigger and introducing more characters is that you have to properly be able to fill in screen time. Now, with the fact that these are superhero movies, the directors have a difficult choice to make. Superhero movies, one of the, you know, biggest audiences other than, you know, young adults that go to these movies are kids, children. Now, you know, for those of you who don't have kids or anything like that, I mean, it's kind of hard to get them to sit still for over 3 hours. So, and that's what you have to do. Avengers Age of Ultron is a 2.5-hour movie, and it still felt like there should have been more. That's saying something. A 2.5-hour film, and there should have been more. So, okay. So the bad here, unfortunately, is that there were a lot of really weird transitions and cuts in this movie, some of which that I was just kind of raising my eyebrow at, and I don't know, like, there were just these strange... Okay, so we cut from Ultron being in gangled up, crazy robot, just shambling around. And then the next thing we know, we see his actual Ultron body. We just cut from that to that. I felt like there should have been something in between to where we saw the creation of Ultron's body. Maybe that's something I missed. I'm not sure. But I was paying pretty good attention the whole time, and I didn't see anywhere. Ultron just appeared. He just appeared in his new body before, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. So I was like, well, okay, that's very strange. Yeah, there's just a lot of weird cuts. Moments where, oh gosh, there were so many of them, I can't really place it, but this movie begs for a director's cut, and I've heard that there is going to be one, whether or not this is actually confirmed, but they said that there is going to be a 3.5-hour director's cut of this movie. Now, I think that's going to fill in a lot of the blanks, and it'll be easier for people at home. That way you don't have to sit in a movie theater for 3.5 hours, because, guys, that's a chore. That's a chore to be able to have to sit in a 3.5-hour movie. It's rough, even for the most enthusiastic of fans. But I'm going to be watching it when it comes out. So, a lot of weird cuts and transitions, but I think that was just for the sake of pacing, because, again, it's a 2.5-hour movie, guys. That's tough. Another problem I had, the on-screen romance of Black Widow and the Hulk. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, this felt like a waste. This really felt like a waste. This just felt so strange. Like, I'm not a shipper of, Black Widow and Captain America, but this was just weird. Like, she comes in, and all of a sudden, she's the only one that's able to calm the Hulk down when he's going through a rage, and, it just felt weird. It just felt out of place. I don't know why it existed. I guess it let us kind of know a little bit more about Natasha's backstory, and I think that ultimately was what they were trying to do, was they were trying to fill us in on more of what her background was like. But I don't get it. I don't get where this came from. I don't think there was any setup for this. So it just felt very forced and very weird. It just felt like they wanted to put a romance on the screen for the sake of putting a romance on the screen. So it was very, very strange. I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into it at all. And, yeah, that's something that I don't know. It didn't sit with me well. I personally thought it was a waste. That's just my opinion. So when I said that, the action sequences in the film were its greatest strength and its greatest weakness, this is what I mean. There was honestly a little too many. I mean, for the sake of story, I felt like they could have fit more story in there, and cut down a little bit on the action. This is just me. Okay, if you like action, then you'll really love this. But for me, I felt like that it was just too overstuffed with action. Like, I felt like, okay, here's another fight scene. Jesus Christ, okay, can we get past this, please? And can we get back to the story? There's a villain at hand. I mean, honestly, there was so much. And another thing is that there was a lot of CGI use in this movie. There was a ton of CGI use in this movie. Like, some of the fights, I mean, I understand that some of the things that were being done in the movie had to be done in CGI because they were just too impossible to coordinate in real life. So that's not a problem. Practical effects can only go so far, and especially in a movie like, Age of Ultron, designing all those intricate suits can be a little daunting. So, I mean, I can give them a pass for that. That's really not that big a deal. So, I mean, just a lot of CGI, guys. A lot of CGI. A lot of fight sequences that honestly should have been cut a little shorter, but yeah. Going all over the world they were all over the place in this movie. Like, they were literally all over the place. They were in Germany, they were in China, they were in Africa, they were in America, they were in the middle of nowhere. They were all over the freaking place in this movie, and, sometimes it was explained, sometimes it wasn't. There's just a lot of really odd transitions in this film, and again, I think that plays into fault with the cuts that they had to make. So there were just a lot of really weird transitions where they're in one country in 1 second and in another one in the next. So again, really weird. Couldn't wrap my brain around that one. So, oh boy, I'm trying to think of anything else, really. We're getting pretty long-winded in this review, but I wanted to do this for you guys. So, Ultron was... He was a good villain. He was good. But I felt like there were moments when he was a bit too silly. Now, granted, he's the creation of Tony Stark, so he's going to adopt a few of his personas. But he just, at times, felt a little too silly. Like, he was so silly that you couldn't take him serious. He felt so menacing sometimes, and then he felt so silly the next. I think they could have toned down a lot on the silliness of Ultron and really tried to make him an intimidating threat, which is a lot of what he was in the comic books. So, I mean, I can kind of take that, you know, because the comedy that they did with Ultron was really, really good and really, really hilarious. So, I don't know. I'm still kind of at odds at how I feel about Ultron himself. But at times I was like, guys, can we tone back on the silliness just for a little bit? Can we be just a little serious? Just for a second, please. Just for a second. The death of Quicksilver. Okay, so this death honestly felt strange because you see the, I forget her name, the Japanese doctor that helped heal Hawkeye after he had suffered a mortal injury. She took a full-on blast right from Ultron, but Quicksilver who was pulling people out of the way of a moving train. You're telling me that he couldn't move fast enough to pull Hawkeye away from the Gatling gun that was being fired at Hawkeye? You're telling me that there was no way he could have possibly gotten away from that? That was a really hard pill for me to swallow. Now, I know for the sake of the plot that's what they did, but it is what it is. I guess I can just take that one on the chin. So, yeah. So my final thought overall. This was a very strong outing from Marvel once again. I mean, even on its, you know, even at its worst, the Age of Ultron is still an incredibly good Marvel movie. Would I rate it better than Guardians of the Galaxy, which is currently my favorite Marvel movie? No. In my opinion, Guardians of the Galaxy is still the best Marvel movie to date, followed by Captain America the Winter Soldier, followed by the first Avengers film. I would actually rank Ultron about 4th in terms of good. Well, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'll have to get back to you guys on that one. But my top 3 Marvel movies right now are Guardians of the Galaxy, Winter Soldier, and the first Avengers. So, in that order, by the way. Age of Ultron is a very, very, very good movie and a great, strong inclusion in the series. I think a lot of what this movie was doing was setting up for the next phase, which we're going to see here very soon. I think that ultimately we got to see another great collaboration with all the different Avengers, but I really feel like there were just too few movies in between that led into Ultron, and there wasn't enough to set it up like the original films were. Ultron just appeared in this movie, so the lack of setup for Ultron really, I think, hurt this movie in the long run. So, honestly, this movie, again, great movie to see. It's a great date movie, a great movie to go see with your friends, or just a great movie to go see by yourself. Though I really would recommend watching it a second time, because even I'm sure there are some things that I missed. Overall, the characters were great. I love the inclusion of Vision. Paul Bettany is one of my favorites. He did a bang-up job as the Vision, and, you know, we learned more about the universe surrounding the Avengers and how things are going to come to play in the Infinity Wars 2-part movie saga. So, I can't wait to see what else Marvel has planned, and I will definitely be going and seeing Ant-Man here very soon. But I would, again, stick with my rating of 8 out of 10 for Age of Ultron. I'm going to wait and maybe re-review this movie when the director's cut of the movie comes out. But definitely a great movie to go see, guys. Really a great movie, and I would recommend it. Just kind of pardon it for its faults, because it does make up for it with a lot of strengths. It's a very funny movie. It's a very witty movie. It's action-packed. Like I said, great. So, this has been Steve Turbo with our Avengers Age of Ultron review, and if you stuck around this long, bless your heart, thank you so much, and you know what's next. Alright, so, Tell me what you thought. Tell me what you thought of Avengers Age of Ultron. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did it live up to the first Avengers? Did it not live up to the first Avengers? Were there things that you just couldn't get past with Age of Ultron? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section below. And don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, share. Till then, guys, this is Steve Turbo. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Turbo out. Whoa! After credits kind of thing, but there's no credits, whatever. Man, that after the credits scene. Thanos grabbing the Infinity Gauntlet. Oh my god. Oh my god, Josh Brolin is so good as Thanos. Josh Brolin's so good as Thanos. Oh god, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. It gives me chills every time he's on the screen as Thanos. When he puts the glove on and he's just like, fine, I'll do it myself. I was like, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. Oh man. Oh. But anyway, that was your cool after credits scene, but we don't have credits thing. Oh, by the way, guys, don't wait around. The Thanos thing is the only after credits thing. There is nothing else, so you don't have to wait all the way to the end. The Thanos thing is the only thing, and it's the mid-credits scene. It's the mid-credits scene. That's the only one you gotta stick around for. So, again, guys, thanks for watching. Turbo out. See you next time.